All right, we're live once again for a brand new episode of the TrickCast. Amir Abdelazim is in the house and myself, Alex Siletsky. For the new listeners, maybe just to give a brief overview, Amir is somebody who's been in business and in the telecom space, especially for several decades. You help connect more than 1 billion people to the internet, a lot of times in third world developing countries, conflict areas, people that really need it just to survive, not to post on Facebook about their pretty puppy, right? So we can get into this as well. And myself, very involved in the tech recruitment space. I have several startups, several software products that I'm running as well. So we're here with the TrickCast, focusing on the business magic, the leadership examples in today's world. And Amir, is there anything else to add to the introduction before we kick off our episode today?
Always good to see you. That's what I
Likewise.
always like to start with, that it's very good to see you, Alex. I really look forward for our weekly conversations. Yes, we hopefully trying to build together a nice weekly capsule to our team, our colleagues, our audience, and to get to know what we focus on tech every week. That's lovely. And I think we can actually put our share in participating into telling the people what we think about technology. So looking forward for our episode today.
Likewise. And we received a lot of feedback so far. So thanks to the viewers, to my mom, and the 6 other people watching our podcast, probably. But jokes aside, we received feedback that some of the companies we're referring to, or some of the people, some audience members don't have full context on what those companies are, who they do. Maybe they've seen them in the news, but they don't know what is Oracle, what is OpenAI. They might know ChatGPT. So we'll do our best here in my role, to mediate and try to provide extra context, and we'll leave all the expertise to Amir. Now, what do we have in the menu today, Amir? Do you want to maybe give us an overview of the 3 topics, and then we can jump straight into them?
Yeah, we have very interesting 3 topics today. We have a 13-year-old kid arrested in Florida. Interesting story. I actually think we should give it some attention. And we also have Trump not happy with the EU Act and asking them to a little bit change like everything. And we also have OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, becoming the fastest company to reach $500 billion, almost 6 years. So, but you know what? I feel happy today in reality. Have you followed the news of the peace in the Middle East yesterday?
Let's stay hopeful that it lasts.
Yes.
But to be honest, I try to stay away from that topic. It's just depressing. The deeper you get into it and you realize how much shady stuff there is in politics, it's hard, sometimes to stay hopeful and not to get too negative about events that you don't have control over. But let's hope that this lasts.
Let's enjoy the moment that there is no children being killed today when we're talking, actually. And I think that's something I hope it lasts.
That makes 2 of us, yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's jump to the 13-year-old.
And maybe I'll give a little bit of context before you kick us off with your thoughts.
Yes.
So just to give audience a bit of a background. So a 13-year-old boy in Florida was arrested when he asked ChatGPT on a school-issued laptop how to kill a friend. Now, this request was automatically flagged by the school's monitoring software. It's called Gaggle, and it basically monitors students' online activity for potential threats. So the boy obviously claimed that he was just joking. Again, 13-year-old, probably the 2 of us weren't the most intelligent 13-year-olds either, but he was initially charged with making a threat to kill or harm somebody. So there's a lot of debate nowadays between safety and privacy in schools, digital surveillance tools. Is it an overreach? Can we criminalize minors for doing something like this? So yeah, it's become a bit of a hot issue. And Amir, why don't you take it from there?
When I heard this story, I had few concerns or thoughts in my head. The first one, we've been talking about predictive and preventive use cases for AI for some time. And it's lovely when you think about it, when you were going to predict a crisis or predict a weather crisis, predict a storm, like predict even a failure in electricity. But when you actually predict a crime and then you arrest people on intent, that's where I actually feel that where's the line that we need to draw here? So I understand Gaggle is the company actually managing the software that is actually intercepting the traffic in schools in almost 147 municipalities in the US. It's actually taking care of looking at the context of the traffic, understanding if the kids are doing
what they're supposed to.
Shady activities that shouldn't have been done. You can also relate to the context of a lot of mass shooting happening in the US. Fun fact, there is two big companies that came out of these two industries on two different routes, actually. One of them is Snapchat. The origin of Snapchat was the founder wanting to bypass this system. It's existing since a long time. It was just very premature. And the founder wanted to chat with his friends, avoiding the firewall in the school at this time. And that was the story behind Snapchat and the most encrypted security in Snapchat. So you cannot trace it when you are doing
the disappearing messages, obviously.
Disappearing message, and also moderating IPs. I had a story in Africa when we're trying to give Snapchat for free to our customers. I know that cannot be possible in EU and US for net neutrality to give some platforms free, but in emerging markets we can. But we couldn't because we were not able to whitelist the IB because Snapchat was changing the IB every now and then. And that's when I had to research why. And it was the founder theory was he wanted to bypass the firewall of the school.
Interesting.
To be able to be able.
I think your Amazon, your Alexa is ordering some stuff.
Yes. So back to the Goggle. I think Goggle is a sophisticated version of the old firewall censoring type of tools that is used to traffic monitor the schools. And it picked the sentence. And now you would actually really start asking questions about GDPR. It's not valid in the US, but about GDPR compliant, about privacy. And where do you draw the line? And honestly, I don't have an answer. What do you think? Protecting threats and attacking privacy or arresting on intent?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that came to mind. I think it was one of the founding fathers of the United States that says, the quote went something like, those who give up their freedom in order to get safety will eventually have neither. To have more privacy and security will eventually have neither. I'm butchering it, so maybe we can look up the exact line afterwards, but I'm kind of a strong believer in that. You mentioned something when it came to, and I think we're going to go in that direction with AI and surveillance tools. The first thought that came to my mind when you talked about predictive AI features, right? The movie Minority Report, as you may recall, where basically they could predict the crimes that would happen before the person even knew they wanted to do them, and they would arrest people ahead of time, right? So that's kind of taken to the Orwellian extreme of how this could go wrong. But from my perspective, I think if you're using a school laptop or if you're using a work laptop, right? Like IT developers get issued the standard Lenovo usually. What you're doing on that device, on your work time, on your school time, I think there's 100% right. They should monitor whatever they need and block whatever services they deem that shouldn't be used. In your private time, what you do on your own phone, I'm strongly against that. And I think that's going to take us also a little bit to the second topic with the regulation that was about to be passed in the European Union, where the government can basically monitor people's private messages via WhatsApp. So encryption would basically be dead. And again, I mean, like, sorry for taking a long time to get into it, but coming from a former Soviet Union country and that mindset, we have an automatic distrust of whenever government tries to get involved too far in the affairs of people. So I do believe in free market capitalism. I don't believe that the government should be the one telling me who is allowed and not allowed to read my messages. I believe there's a lot of technological solutions to that kind of stuff, right? We can probably have some kind of filters, and somebody shouldn't be allowed to look up how to create a nuclear bomb on ChatGPT, right? So there's flagging systems like that, 100%. Child materials and, all of that dark stuff, absolutely there's no place for it, but I don't think they should be getting involved in our private devices. So what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. Actually, I never thought that control can put things in the right place. Actually, control is meant for the outliers. It cannot be meant for the norm. So if you're trying to control 80% of the people,
Could you repeat that phrase again?
Control should mainly be done for the outliers, not for the mainstream. So if you feel that you're designing a system to control or surveil
everybody,
80%, not even everybody, 80%, 60%, then you're on the wrong side. Then there's something wrong. There's an underlying cause that you need to look in more details for. If everyone, let's make it very simple. If everyone is parking in the wrong side of the road, everyone, you can happily collect fines, but then there's something wrong in your design. It's like the wisdom of the crowd in somehow is really telling how it should be. And your mistake would be in this case, or my theory would be in this case, is going beyond and understanding why the crowd is not complying to this and start tuning the roots of the culture or the roots of the education or the roots of how to use these things. When you're talking, I was thinking in reality, before we jump even in the data act, there's two guys that I would consider them like the two rivalries and would probably have movies about them like the Joker and Batman or something like that. It's Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. And Peter Thiel have a theory, or he's very vocal about technology is where the leadership is, and we would like to control everything. And if you follow the line of his investments, he's always investing in the infrastructure, on what stays, not on the use cases. And when you look at Elon Musk, funny enough, both of them were in the PayPal mafia. Very interesting name that you can look at when we can maybe have a full episode about
Provide
the PayPal
extra
mafia.
context.
Yeah, they are actually really controlling our lives. But Elon Musk is also coming with the fact that let's play for the good. Let's actually use AI to serve purpose. Let's work on use cases that actually helping longevity. But here's the catch. Most of them are believing that we need to live longer. We have a threat on the human life. And Elon Musk went for the Neuralink that should predict from your hormones that you might actually do a bad act and let the Neuralink fix your hormones, ethical, unethical. Let's talk about it. And David Thiel went to Plantier, which when we talk about Gaggle, it's being done on the school level, but Plantier is mass. This is where you really have your private chats, your phones, your tabs, everything can be encrypted with Plantier and is being done literally by most of the governments.
Can we double click here for a second to give people context about Palantir? So Palantir is a US-based company that's very heavily involved in AI development, and one of their main specialties is basically processing massive amounts of data. They have contracts with all kinds of departments of the US government and some international governments that basically they can monitor phone calls, messages, any other kind of transmission signals. And one thing I want to throw you an extra bone here, Amir, because last night I was watching a short video with Alex Karp, who is the CEO of Palantir, that I pulled up here on the screen. And his perspective, and that was, I think, for the past couple of years, has been saying that AI is obviously the next superpower. And the country that controls AI is essentially has an all-access control to the rest of the planet in a sense. And his preference was, and he said that, I prefer a Western country having it in their hand. And if US is to be that Western country, I'd very much want Palantir to be in control of it, right? So that's kind of scary that Palantir might have AI that's going to be dominating not just United States, but potentially the world stage with its capabilities. So that's, I guess, the Joker in this scenario. So would you say Elon is the Batman in that case, or what's your view on that?
It's just very interesting because when I think about Elon Musk, I really like his vision, the non-terrestrial, and also like going into the root. And he went far to the root, to the biological root. I need to play on the hormones, but I don't think it's ethical because it's a technology that can be used to manipulate people's will from inside your head, literally. And I actually, in this case, I prefer the devil you know. And the devil I know in this is like Peter Thiel. And if you know that this is where the control is, I agree with his statement, by the way. AI is the new superpower. Forget about tanks and air fighters and anything. It's done. It's actually the robots and AI. That's the new superpower. And if there's significance for our generation, it's the evolution of technology to mix the human with the machine. Point blank, done. This is there. Live with it. We have to deal with it and work with it. And the point that we have to deal with it, the devil I know is Palantir, and the ways and the thinking that who leads on technology leads for the future, and understanding that Palantir exists and it's outside my body, I would probably be on the side of Peter Thiel.
If I can push back a little bit, I think intent matters a lot. And I haven't seen that specific clip. Maybe they're referring to with Elon saying something by hormonal control. What I believe is that it's obviously possible when you have something like this implanted, but I really doubt that his intention would be that, hey, let's change your hormones to prevent you from doing crime. That's maybe taking a bit of a leap that, like if you look, for example, at his track record of open sourcing a lot of his patents and even open sourcing part of the X code as former Twitter. As they updated, they actually release and open source parts of the previous code, from my understanding. So, if you take that kind of open source let's say, more the blockchain direction. I think that's also something we can solve with technology in the long term, that if somebody's using implants to manipulate you in a way that you wouldn't know. Like, I'm sure we can come up with those ethical measures in place then. But just because it's possible, what if somebody's about to commit suicide and we get a notification their serotonin and dopamine levels are extremely low, and we can not pump those chemicals in their brain, but have some kind of alerting system to them, to their family, that, hey, this person is actually chemically might do something that's going to take their whole life. So is that something we can worry about later? Because I'm not sure that the intent is there to control people through an implant.
Elon was clear about his intent, and maybe you're right into putting some context on this. You remember last time or a few episodes ago, we talked about everything as a profit center, and that's the school of Larry Ellison and Elon Musk. So Elon is building the blocks for the non-terrestrial living. And when humans would move into the different gravity and physical environment, our hormonals will be impacted. And that's where Neuralink fit into the story of Elon Musk. But we are on the week, on the months of Nobel Prizes, and also the nuclear weapons or the nuclear reactions was not meant to kill a lot of people, and now it is killing. So I guess we need to be powerful at the end of the day. And I think my sincere advice here is, world is changing a lot. Technology is existing and is evolving faster than it was. And what we're doing now, we don't know the evolution about it later. And my philosophy here will be, don't release a virus without having the antivirus. And if we are evolving in a technology that is on hormonal controls or evolving a technology into severe surveillance, hand in hand, you must have another technology to supervise this, quality assurance, and another a policy and strict regulations with another technology to control the controller, if I can think about it this way. And I guess controlling the controller takes us to the EU Act.
Yeah, and before we jump in there, I want to take you just to one more quick place, maybe for the audience as well, somebody I kind of admire. He's a tech philosopher, so very successful guy, Balaji Srinivasan. I'm just trying to share my screen here. And his perspective, and I think another person I admire, Naval Ravikant, they share kind of a similar mindset in terms of technology, that if you're releasing something revolutionary like this, some kind of a system like the AI control system, the Great Firewall of China, for example, you should design it with the intention that you should be able to hand it over to your opponent, to your enemy, to an opposing government, and design in a way that you don't feel a threat that they will manipulate or do something unethical with it, right? So we should design systems from the start that they're, let's say, for the greater good or whatever, that you can hand it over to your enemy and not be worried that they will use it negatively. So what are your thoughts on that before we jump to the EU?
No, that's exactly that. I agree on that 100%, because the point is, the knife is meant to cook food, but it also meant to kill. It can do a lot of things. The Swiss knife, for example. Yeah. So, but when you put something outside, and I think the basics that used to happen early in my generation, when we put some technology or systems or roll out something out, is not being followed now. And I guess this is where the real problem is. Education need to change. Awareness need to change. And the people need to know, when there is a tool in front of you, what is your right and what is not your right. Building a system with in mind that you should be able to control the system, and make sure that if it's handed, like assuming the knife, let's go to the knife again.
Yeah.
If you know that the knife should be able to kill, then you should put a label on it and say the knife can kill. And make sure that the sharp edge of the knife, if it touches you, you do that. And maybe if there's too many knives in the markets, you need to be aware of martial arts. And martial arts becomes another industry in this case. So I really believe in that. And I'm 100% aligned with that a gentleman say. You cannot stop the evolution, but let's have the antidote.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to unplug the power and reset and check again.
Let's on a related note, sorry to take you a little bit political, but let's not research how to make viruses more dangerous and more contagious before we actually have a solution. Like, I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was basically that whenever they work on those basically gain of function research, making viruses more dangerous, to predict if there's going to be some future evolution that we can prevent the cure for in advance. Since they're doing it for the past several decades, we haven't created a single cure in advance, waiting for that virus to evolve. So far we had a couple leaks. So it doesn't seem like a very smart strategy to create something more dangerous, like you said, that you don't have an antidote for yet.
That's the nuclear power again.
That's right.
That I totally disagree on. And if we're not able to be brave enough to put at least for our internal sake, forget about enemy. And even if you don't want to go that far that you hand it over to your enemy, at least you should not think that you're the smartest person in the room. If you're building a weapon, someone else is building a weapon. And at least you should know how to defend yourself.
100%. And yeah, let's take it to the next topic that we discussed, which is about the EU-US Data Act. And again, just to give the audience some context, so US president is basically pushing the EU to change various data-related regulations. For those that might not know, Europe is usually at the center of legislating, regulating things whenever there are new technologies, which there's a lot of benefits to that. And basically, his point of view that it makes unfair for US tech companies to do business in Europe. There's been many incidents of Facebook getting fined and all of the other companies getting fined because they're not following some of those data privacy laws. Just to give an example for marketing purposes, I can cold email 10,000 people in the States without any repercussions. And in Europe, you get reported by somebody and basically your whole business can be sued. So that's like one of those things is not getting unsolicited advertising, let's say. So from your perspective, I mean, I know you're pulling up some specific points in this act. Do you want to take it over from here?
I think we have been always saying that EU is over-regulating everything and trying to put controls on everything. And that over-regulation, clearly the signs are there that if you go back 15 years, EU and US were almost head-to-head when it comes to GDP. And now, like, they're not even close. Liberty and freedom in the US have made a bigger impact economically and powerfully. Recently as well, I think the incident of CrowdStrike, it impacted Microsoft systems. If you remember that incident on the airport, it impacted Microsoft, but it didn't impact Apple because Apple refused to comply with the integration of open integrations between data, and Microsoft complied. And hence, when there was a system outage in one place, it impacted Microsoft, which was the crisis that took us by surprise a few months ago. Now, am I in favor of the Data Act or not? Actually, I'm not. I think it's overburdening. And I really feel that the EU regulations is really like going far into sophistication and then actually focusing on the result. Like, sorry for my language, but yesterday they were discussing whether we call sausage for meat or we vegan sausage. We should ban vegan sausage to be called sausage. Like, this is delusional, literally. Like, we're not really talking about real problems here. And now, and that act is allowing the European Union to do two things, actually. One is allowing the governments at any point of time, they can, using the legal system, of course, decrypt the data of any tech company, but using a legal procedure. That's the one that actually disturbs companies a lot, because I know that it can be a moral and ethical act, but I don't think it's moral or ethical act here. It's actually depriving them from a competitive advantage. Because once I know how to decrypt your data, then I know how to encrypt it again. Then there's technology privileges has been left here. And I think what is left out of the act is how to protect IPs with encryption on decryption. So I really don't think the US tech companies are taking the privacy to that extent. I feel it's more of a technological prevention of battles. And from the EU side, they need to take control on their data, which is fair. And they have seen now with few evidence that the more you depend on the US or anyone else outside your sovereign, you also lose your sovereignty, even if they are your best allies. Like, the tariffs are now being intervening on internal acts on EU or asking EU to release the regulations of climate change. Really, like, and there's some forceful way.
There's a forceful element there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one point. So one point is, where do you draw the line so you protect the technological IP when you're talking about encryption or decryption? But the second point is that we've been always talking about the data economy. And that act makes the data available to everyone. So we together go and build a very nice company. We have a good base of customer. And with the transactions of our customer, which is the bread and butter of creating any real commercial prediction or even real use case prediction, you and me are forced to release this data to anyone who asks us for it. And that's where actually I think it's going so far, even in the commercial competition. And it's literally dissolving the data economy. I don't think there is no solution for that as well. I believe maybe creating data banks or opening data APIs or allowing commercial agreements around data. And here's the end. Where's the consumer in this? The consumer need to get part of the pie. If you're going to
Right.
sell my data based on my transaction and behavior to someone else, where's my share? Those are my thoughts on these 2 points, actually. Data is not becoming an asset anymore if this act is working. So what do you think?
Yeah, I want to bring 2 points on that. So, actually, a couple of things. So, totally 100% agree. I think EU, the pendulum swing a little bit too far to one direction with regulations. And one of the worst impacts of this, that in the United Kingdom, people are being arrested now for speech online, as they call hateful speech or whatever. I've actually seen a lot of those messages. A lot of times, just people even suggesting things like maybe UK should control their immigration a little bit better. Maybe we shouldn't let people cross by boats illegally, right? So things that make sense. People that are not aware, again, sorry to bring this negative news into the scenario, but the United Kingdom right now is experiencing one of the highest ratios of rapes per 100,000 people. So what's been happening in UK in the past couple of years, absolutely insane. A lot of times it seems like the aggravators are actually being protected and people are speaking against it. Obviously, a kid gets assaulted by somebody, right? You can kill somebody for that, right? I mean, as a parent, I'm sure you have so much anger and fear that, so now people are being arrested for kind of pushing back and saying, hey, let's control immigration. So that's kind of the extreme that police that you pay taxes for showing up to your house to arrest you for a Facebook comment, right? Which I think absolutely is ridiculous. Second thing on this topic, anybody in the EU, in case this may come back again, I personally highly recommend that people use a Signal app. I'm not sure if you use it, Amir, but it's basically an encrypted app that's been evading these kinds of regulations. So anybody go download Signal. It's amazing. I've been using it for a long time. It's totally free. At least you'll have some way to protect your privacy in that regard. And yeah, I agree with you that I think we can have technological antidotes to these diseases, let's call them. And we definitely shouldn't give the government all the power to control it. So yeah, that's it from my side, Amir. What do you think?
I agree with you. And I use Signal and I use Telegram, but I also
Amazing.
believe that there's an antidote for everything. So if someone is focusing on getting your information, they will get it. That's what you should be aware of.
That's
So
right.
my general advice, be cautious of what you say online anyway. Be cautious of what you say in public. And every word counts. And there's no need to antagonize, but we should also keep our rights. And if people are saying the right things, regardless, if a parent is at rage for an attack on their child, no one will actually. Yes, maybe they will get arrested or antagonized, which I totally disagree on. But they will be out because this is not fair. Even the 13 years old child, by the way, he was released. So the
Yeah, it's
boy,
ridiculous. Yeah.
he was released. So there is still rules in the world and common sense. Like, come on, like it needs to be applied in here. So I would like to close with a small note on again, like on the AI. In reality, we've seen the dynamics now. Like really, AI is leading, and the prophecy of Plantier and Peter Thiel is coming to true, that whoever owns the AI and the technology behind AI is on the edge for the coming at least 50, 100 years. OpenAI becomes the company that gets into the $500 billion in 6 years.
Yeah.
Let's close with a bet and then let the audience come back to us with what they think. How long it will take them to the 1 trillion?
Let's say another 16 months. That's my guess.
Okay, I'm aligned with your bet. So it's less than 2 years.
I think there's going to be a lot of quantitative easing, money printing, fiat currencies getting devalued for hard assets, stocks, equities, all of that. So I think people are fleeing to places where they can still gain value in assets rather than let it sit in cash.
Let's talk a little bit later on one of the episodes about the techniques that they're using to play with the valuation, because I think this will be very interesting to everyone else. But how long did Tesla take to be 1 trillion?
That's a good question. I can't recall of the less than 10 years.
17 actually.
17.
And 17. Nvidia 30. Microsoft 40.
And
Apple
we see
30.
gold, we see Bitcoin, we see Ethereum. We have like comparisons of other assets as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But thank you for the episode. actually. And I
Likewise, sir.
think we have a very interesting topics this week. And I will really look forward to hear how long it will take OpenAI to be the 1 trillion. Let us know in the comments.
Okay. All right. See you in the next episode, everybody, and thanks for your time.
Cheers.